is all about global parity. So how can we reach gender parity through strategic investments and leadership? Our first panel explores how targeted infrastructure improvements and leadership initiatives can bridge the global gender gap, particularly in sectors like technology and obviously sports. They highlight actionable insights and innovative approaches to empower women and foster more inclusive environments worldwide. So in the following seconds, we will have our first speakers of the day on stage. I would like you to receive them with a round of applause, please. Shifa Garg, Chief Business Officer, Spectatr. Memic, Head of EMEA Security Sales, Google Cloud. Also, Lluís Cortés Cava, Head Coach Women's National Team, Saudi Arabian Football Federation, and the moderator of this first panel session of the day, Arianna, Criscione, CEO, Founder, Valeur Sport. Please, un fuerte aplauso para todos ellos. Shifa Garg, Memic, Lluís Cortés Cava y también Arianna, Criscione. Bienvenidos, welcome, hello. Welcome, bienvenido, Lluís. Hasta luego. All yours, Arianna. See you later.
Thank you. Oh, there's so many of you, it's hard to see. Just kidding. Good morning, everyone. Are you guys good? Thank you, whoever said that. Okay. So to start, I have a question for you guys. Can anybody tell me what the glass ceiling is? It's literally crickets. Nobody knows, or you're just too afraid to talk? Nobody can see you, so just throw it out there. Anybody have any idea?
It's when women face, or women or any group faces challenges which are unseen. They are not systematic, but it's felt by.
Awesome. Anybody have anything else to add to that, or any contradiction to it? No. You can't hear her. Okay. So she said it's when women or any minority group have complications or problems that are unseen, correct? Did I miss anything? Good for everyone? Oh, you guys are a great audience. Thank you. Okay, I'll just chat with you guys. Okay, so I looked it up because I was really interested. I think I know what the glass ceiling is. I can make an assumption I know what the glass ceiling is. But according to Google, and we've got Google up here, so I'm going to assume they're correct. It is an unacknowledged barrier to advancement in a profession, especially affecting women and members of minorities. But the part that threw me off is that it's an unacknowledged barrier. We can all agree that we acknowledge that there's a lot of barriers to women moving through the sports industry, getting leadership roles, or in technology or other aspects, correct? Okay, you're semi-waking up now. Cool. Thanks, guys. All right, so we're going to jump in and continue to talk about this idea of it not being acknowledged, even though it definitely is, and where it's going to go today. So hopefully you guys will wake up more during our chat and we can interact with you, but we'll see. So to my panel now, can each of you please share a pivotal moment in your career where you faced a glass ceiling? And just for fun, we're going to actually talk to the man on the panel where the glass ceiling comes in.
Okay, thank you first for the invitation. Thank you, Arianna, for the introduction. And thank you all for coming in the first panel in the day. I know it's early in the morning, but thank you for coming. So speaking about the breaking glass ceilings, in my case, in my career as a head coach in women's football, when I started when I was 18 or 17-year-old, maybe the most important or impactful moment was to win the first ever Women's Champions League with FC Barcelona. So it was an incredible moment. But it's also important to mention that today that I'm in Saudi Arabia, what we are achieving or what they are achieving in Saudi Arabia in women's football is amazing because they were not able to play football 6 years ago. And today they can play football, but they have a professional league with professional teams, with professional contracts, and amazing conditions for all these players, all these women who decided to play football. So I think it's a very good example.
Absolutely. And Shifa?
All right, so I spent the first 5 years of my career in the banking industry as an investor. And last 4 years have been in the tech industry, and I think both the industries have given me their fair share of shockers or reality checks. So, when I joined Goldman Sachs out of B school, it's one of India's top B schools. My male colleague from another B school told me at the time of our appraisal that I think I should be paid more because you got here not because of merit, you got here because of your gender. And I shrugged it off. I never looked back. And when I joined Spectatr, I was started to head the finance function, youngest CFO in the history of tech startups in India. And our investors got super nervous. And this one board meeting, I got really thrashed. But I think I would commend my founders a lot. We have a female founder, and she has been such a support. And I continue to do the good work. And I think you just have to ignore the noise and keep going on your path.
Amazing. And Diana?
Yeah. So, I like that you asked the audience the question because it also got me thinking, like, what is a glass ceiling? And as I was reflecting on it, I realized that certainly there's the external glass ceilings, but then there's also the internal ones. Meaning that many times we think that it's a glass ceiling, but it's actually not. And I think that, that's been a big learning for me personally as well, how many times it looks like a glass ceiling, but if you get closer to it, it's maybe like a very thin plastic that you can easily remove, and or that you can have people that support you who can come along with you to show you that, doing the pressure with many people, that glass ceiling can easily be removed, or it wasn't as hard as it seemed. So I think that certainly there's the external glass ceilings, and they need to be fully acknowledged, but then there's also the internal ones that I think are much more within our control.
Amazing.
So,
definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, and for me personally, I mean, I've been at Google for 14 years now, and I feel very fortunate that I've encountered some glass ceilings, but then with the support of sponsors, role models, etc., and or like the confidence that they are not as hard as they seem, that they've been able to be removed.
But now Google is starting to go into women's sports,
yes.
Right? So do you think now you can break that glass ceiling below you and try to bring up the women's sports? And how do you think Google and yourself has a part in that?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully 100% yes. I think that the first part is always believing that it's possible to break it, because if you start with the premise that it's not, like certainly it won't be possible. And just to share about that example, so in May, I work in the cybersecurity division of Google, which is part of Google Cloud. And we announced an agreement with the female Atlético de Madrid football team. And we purposely decided to partner with the female team because of many reasons, but part of that also being that glass ceiling. And I do think that it sends a very strong message as well, that like big brands are behind and are supporting female football. And there's also like certainly some barriers that you know very well, Arianna, in female sports. But I think that as well, when I think about the intersection with technology, I think that women can actually pioneer the way there in so many ways. So we ourselves are testing a lot of technology with Atlético de Madrid, with the female team. And why not? Like, why cannot that be the opening door then after for male sports? But the kind of the perspective in that regard can be changed so that the pioneering is happening on the female side.
Okay, let's continue with this idea and go to Lluís. How does sponsorship help break the glass ceiling, or how can sponsors come in and work with the club or work with the women and change that?
Well, of course, sponsorship is a very important part in all this process. Yes, so in clubs, in federations, and also each of the women sport women in each of the sports. But I'm going to speak more about women's football. It's a crucial part in this evolution, in this growing, because of course the sponsorship can give us the tools, can give us the resources, can give us not only the money, because it's not only about money, it's about also all the technology that we can use as coaches, as a team, as a club, as a federation, and all these sponsorship initiatives that we can sign can help us to develop our game and to train better and to play better and to improve our players, but also, and it's very important, can help us to create role models, because these sponsors can help us to show to the world, to show to the young girls, to show to everyone that this is, for example, Alexia Putellas, she's a football player, she's professional from this sport, she can earn money from that, she can live from playing football. So some sponsors can help us to show to the girls and to the world that we have these players, and to create and to develop these role models also, and which is very important for me in women's football.
Amazing. So we go from role models, and it's not just role models that need to be there on the pitch, but we need leaders in the boardroom and off of it. So from a leadership perspective, which we know you are, and congratulations, one of the youngest. Nobody applauded that, but cool, you guys are listening. How do you perceive the evolution of leadership opportunities for women in tech and sport, and where that's going?
I think I look at it from two lenses. One would be in the leadership roles, and the other would be more on ground and pursuing a career in sport. And when I talk about India and specifically what the context in India is, there's a lot of support that is now coming in terms of women-led venture capital funds. Venture capital funds looking to invest primarily in women-led startups or technology that is helping women. So there's a lot of improvement in that direction. But when it comes to participation in sport from the women perspective, I think it's the chicken and egg problem, because there's still lack of financial viability. So people don't really see that as a viable career option, and a lot of women get discouraged to pursue that path, and they instead go on going into academia or other careers. So I think from business standpoint, there's still, from my B school perspective, we had 25% women, which is a very good mix of women, and that trickled down to the boardroom. But I think media coverage and all of that in sport and participation in sport, that's still lagging behind.
Awesome. Okay. And so what role does infrastructure have in all of this? So we look at technological infrastructure, organizational infrastructure, societal infrastructure. It's creating pathways to get women in leadership roles, creating pathways for players to become role models. Where do we invest in those infrastructure, and how can it be the most impactful in your careers or for the careers of other women trying to get there? Who wants to jump in?
Diana, you can start.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think it plays a critical role. I definitely want to touch base on the technology part. And I think that, first of all, there's the whole visibility, right, that it provides to being able to empower women in the industry. But then there's also a very important part that it plays in terms of helping us realize the conscious and unconscious biases that there might be when making decisions, for instance. And I'm going to talk about this example just because it's from the company where I work for. But Google recently did a project with the Football Association in England with predictive and generative AI to predict, basically to help coaches with scouting. So I feel that things like that are very important in order to make the best possible decisions and remove the biases that are happening across the industry. So I think that it's absolutely critical, the role in creating the infrastructure, but also in protecting it. And I'm going to bring it back to cybersecurity as well, because the sports industry is also it's an increasing target for cyber attacks. So I feel that as well in that sense, it's not only how do we create the infrastructure, but once it's there, how do we protect it? So I feel that, yes, absolutely critical to invest in that.
Okay, so we talked about the technology. What about societal, Lluís?
Well, let me add about this investment in technology and this,
Absolutely.
just about our example in Saudi Arabia, because it's important to mention, and maybe some of you still think that in Saudi Arabia women cannot drive and cannot play football. Yes, it was in the past, it's true, and it was in the recent past, because it was 6 years ago when they were not able to play football or drive, it's true. But today, in terms of investment in technology related with more the technical side, which is my side, yeah, we have the same resources, the same technological resources than the men's team, so than the men's national team. So we are using the same scouting platform, we are using the same GPS devices, we are using the same AI camera to track the trainings, to track the games. So we are having the same resources, let's say like that, yes, than the men's side. So it is very important when we speak about parity and when we speak about giving the same investment solutions to men and women. So I'm very happy that in Saudi Arabia they are respecting that, they are promoting that, and it was since the first day they started with women's football. So it's a good example of how to treat equally women and men, and it's not happening all over the world. It didn't happen in FC Barcelona when I was there. Yes, it's true that it changed a little in the last years, but it's not happening all over the world. So in terms of society, the question, so it's not easy. It's not easy because I'm sad to say that, but we are not living in an equal society. So we have to do many efforts to go to this equality. But the ideal scenario would be to don't do any efforts, because it would mean that we are in equal conditions, yes? Everywhere, at school, the boys and the girls, in our works, in our jobs, in everywhere. So we are much better than years ago, it's true, but we have to do many more efforts, and in my case, to show to the world that a girl can play football, that it's normal that a girl can play football, that it's normal that a boy can wear a Aitana Bonmatí t-shirt when he goes to support his team. So we have to do all these little investments from each of us. So it's not about giving $1 million for a big campaign about women's football. No, it's each of us can do a small investment to promote equality and to promote parity and to promote the women's football. If you go with your daughter or with your son to watch a women's football game, it's an investment that you can do, or if each of you can do every day or every weekend, and it's a very small step, but a very important step for the future.
So you talked about Saudi and what's happening with more equality and parity within the football aspect, and you brought it back to Europe and some other clubs that still don't have equality where that's happening and parity. But we have a global panel here. Everybody is from a different part of the world currently. How are we still continuing the advancement of women in sport, and that it's not limited to specific regions or specific places? Because yes, you talked that it wasn't parity there, but there has been huge advancement at your old club, and they've been super successful. But that is one part of Spain, so how can other parts of Spain come up? How can other parts of the Middle East? How can India do more for women in women's sports? Where are we, and what should we be doing?
Okay, so I'll start with an anecdote. Spectatr has AI technology, and a very big part of that is player face recognition. And we work with one of the IPL, we work with several IPL teams, but one of the IPL teams has a Barbados Royals team in Caribbean Premier League. And when we were talking about it to them, and it was about what all players do we train for, etc. The conversation, there was an implicit understanding that the entire training would happen only for the men's team, and the thought that we have to train it for the women's team as well was not even remotely there. And when I brought it up, it was like shrugged off. So even when technology is being talked about, it's an afterthought that this particular piece of technology can actually get women's stories out there, and that's just a snowball effect. If you don't invest in women teams, then they're not going to get their stories out, and people are not going to watch them, and it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, and even other teams globally, right? When we talk to teams about using technology that we've built, most our conversations have an implicit understanding that it's just going to be used for the men's clubs, and that's a reality. And we at Spectatr, we are a very, very women-led, our entire management team is women, so we are very focused on getting this technology out there. And I think what we can do, where we can play our part, is have innovative pricing models, because I think where these conversations break is more to do with budgets and not wanting to invest. So we're constantly thinking about how we can come up with more innovative, backloaded pricing models so that it doesn't become a barrier in teams thinking about using technology like this.
Diana?
No, I was going to say, Arianna, I mean, you've been a professional player living globally in so many places. I would love to hear as well your takeaway on this one.
I mean, I think it depends on where I live, but I think the biggest thing is one, and I said it a lot yesterday, is visibility. Just seeing it, knowing the problems, which is also why I think it bothers me that we talk about the glass ceiling, which is something that's unacknowledged, but it's acknowledged. We know where the problems are, and we talk about the problems, but we just don't fix them. Like, how do we shut up and fix them? Just start to move in that direction. And I think one of the biggest ones is what Lluís said, is independently, individually, start to change that narrative for yourself and for the people around you. Even yesterday, I was speaking to some students from the Geneva Business School. Anybody from Geneva Business School here? You guys kind of got to talk. It's sort of hard for us, but thank you. I kind of see you waving. Thank you. And one of the women in the class actually talked about how when women are assertive, they're called a certain name that I would totally say, but I think World Football Summit might get mad at me. And she asked me how to deal with that as women. I said, I don't care if you call me that name. Like, I would rather say what I need to say or get done what needs to be done, and you can think what you want, but now that's been solved and we keep moving on. And so I don't know how you two feel about that, but I think this is where it goes. Like, I'm not going to stop and like, let's talk about this name or how I feel. But no, just get the problem done and move on. And you feel what you feel, and I'm going to keep doing what I need to do in order to push forward for myself, to push forward for the teams that I played for, to push forward for women's football. And let's stop talking and just start moving forward. I don't know if it's the same for you guys or how that works.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, but it's also important that football players can focus only on play football. So sometimes we see and we feel, and in Spain we had some recent experience with all the World Cup and everything that happened. So I think that players should focus on playing football and not all the rest.
I 100% agree on this.
That you are investing many times and many efforts on on all around. So
I think there's a lot of noise for athletes in general, but especially women athletes are expected to stand on a soapbox and raise the flag for women or raise the flag for this or be a part of something else, where it's fantastic if they want to do that and if they want to use that platform, and we have amazing players on the US national team who have made a lot of change, but there's a lot of players that just want to play football and they just want to focus on playing football. And at the end of the day, that's what they're supposed to be doing. And the expectation shouldn't be for them to have to do everything else and have all that noise coming at them. Just like women working in the industry, it shouldn't be your job to make sure that you're mentoring 1,000 women to be like you. It should be your job to get your job done and show what women can do. If you want to mentor, that's fantastic, and you take your time and you do that. But at the end of the day, you should also just be allowed to be working in the industry and showing what you can do, rather than always thinking, I have to do this for women or I need to be there. And I think it's the same on the pitch and not on the pitch.
And at the same time, I would add to that, Arianna, that I feel that, for instance, one thing that sports and technology have in common is the amount of scale and reach that they have. And I think that in that sense, there also comes the responsibility of what's the type of change that you want to catalyze through either sports, technology, or the combination of both. So I think that in that sense as well, there's a ton of opportunity to use everything that's available to drive the positive impact that you want to have for the whole society, right? Not just women. There's many other underrepresented groups as well.
So I think this is also really interesting, and I want to continue and how you asked me. For me, growing up, I had the 99ers. Do you guys know who the 99ers are? Thank you. I think I know who said that too, actually. So the 99ers, because there was like 2 yeses, are the US women's national team who won the 99 World Cup, completely changed the trajectory, I would say, for football in general around the world, and showed what it could be and what could happen. I was on the ground at that game. Those were my role models. I grew up my entire life seeing women be badass. So I thought I could do it too, kind of. Not as much as them, but I did a little. But I had those role models and people to look up to. But I also had a lot of men that I looked up to. I had male players that I looked up to. I had male coaches who inspired me, and I enjoyed playing for men. And I think sometimes we separate this thing that female role models have to be the role models for young girls, or female role models in leadership have to be there. And we're forgetting that, no, like, men can help. Men are part of the conversation. Lluís, I hope you're inspiring all your players in Saudi. I'm sure a lot of them are going to be encouraged to go play for Barcelona someday. But how can we also encourage men to join this conversation and be a part of it? And what can they do to be there and show women how to come up?
Yeah, it's a wrong thought that only women can inspire women. So, but it's established there. So it looks like strange that some girl have a referent in the men's side today. Yes, you are pushing them. No, you have to follow some role model who has to be a woman. Why? So, why? Yeah, maybe we can do also in the opposite side. So, and as I said before, every day I see more boys wearing women player T-shirt, which is fantastic. Yes, so women football players, coaches, agents, all the roles in the football industry, yes, can have male role models and can have women role models. But the same in the other side. So some women inspired me also in my job. Yes, some women inspired me. Why not? And I think many men can inspire also women. So the ideal scenario would be that someday in women's football we accept and we normalize that men can work in women's football, that it's already done, but also women can work in the men's side, that it's more difficult to see, yes? And we have some examples. For example, in Germany, we have one assistant coach who is a woman and who's doing so good in a high level, yes, in the top level, also in France, but it's not very normal and not very common in Spain to see women coaching, for example, men's team. Why? If they are better than us, so why not? Okay, so at the end, I don't know if you agree with me, that in companies, in clubs, in federations, we have to look for the best to do this job.
No, I think both of these women would just hire people just because they fit our profile, and they don't necessarily want the best in their company.
No, we have to look for the best. If it's a man or it's a woman, it's okay. If we have the same level, then you decide if you want a man or a woman. Yeah? But we have to look for the best, and you in your companies, you have to look for the best in your companies for each position. Okay? So we can inspire women, and women can inspire us. So we need to, all of you involved in the women in the football industry, don't focus a lot on the gender, focus on the quality or the capability of these people to occupy any role.
So I 100% agree with you. I'm going to put in a slight but there. We all know, though, that at times women aren't given the opportunity to become the best in the same way. So if you have a bunch of resumes, the likelihood is the number will be more geared towards men than women. So rather than take this negatively, though, how can we help women become the best? So now we're just picking the best person for the role. How do we get women into the sports industry, moving up and encouraging them to grow?
I think I would start with, I have been absolutely blessed with the men in my life, starting from my father and my brother, my partner, my colleagues, who've always championed for me. And I think there were very few points in time where I felt like I was not chosen for a particular role because of my gender. And I think the one thing that has helped a lot in my career is that I've grown up in an environment where there's been a lot of interaction and exchanging of notes with both genders, and that instills a sense of empathy in the men around you, right? And I think that's where a lot of the accommodation or championing women to grow starts, and we should all start talking about, without playing the victim card, we should all start talking about our journeys, and I think that instills a lot of empathy in men that you do work with. And the second thing is, like you said, right, people will call you names, and you just hunker down, get down to work and prove it. And all of us have been here, who've reached here. We've all reached here because of merit, and we should not get into our shells and feel like, I'm not good enough. A lot of times we don't talk about a few things because we think it's not very relevant, or we won't sound like a smart person, or we'll sound stupid. But I think, like they say, if you don't ask something, you'll always be stupid. It's better to be stupid sooner than later, right? So I think we should not, it's more internal, and we should, in fact, ask for help when needed. And I think we're going to get there.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, there's one quote from Albert Einstein that says that craziness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I love it because I think that it exemplifies very well also the challenging of the status quo, right? And I think that you can certainly want to do that by yourself, but always you have a group of people around you, always. Either the people that are collaborating with you, or the people that are helping sponsor you, or the people that are just mentoring you along the way. So I think that in that regard, I would say a couple of things. The first one is that definitely trying to do things differently, and realizing that you don't need to impersonate anyone to reach a certain point, but you just need to be yourself, because that's what's going to feel good, and that's what truly is going to get you where you want to go. And because different is not a problem, it's actually an asset. You just need to be in the right setting and context for people to realize that what you can bring is different, and that's actually enriching whatever context it might be. And I would say the second one is just identifying who are those sponsors or those people that can help you open up doors that you're not very certain how to open. But they've opened them before. There's always someone that's done something similar or that can help you in a way. So also trying to find out who they are and how can they help you.
Okay, amazing. So for the women in the audience, what we've learned today, go out there and just do it. Make sure that you build a team around you that supports you. Both of you have had a lot of support. Make sure that you're looking for female role models, but also male role models. They're out there and they're willing to open the door for you. Go find those people and help. Am I missing any? What are other keys?
Would you add anything, Arianna?
Huh?
Would you add anything?
Yeah. And my final question, though, is we know that there's probably a lot of men in the audience right now, right? Like mathematically, probably speaking. How can we tell men to help women get in the industry? What advice can we give to the men? We'll start with you, Lluís, because you happen to be one, but...
For me, the key point is to listen what are the women needs. Because sometimes we are treating them differently, but maybe they want to be treated equally. So we are making sometimes some differences without knowing why. So we have to listen our women players, our women coaches, our women partners in the company, sponsors. So what they need, why they want, yes? And after that, after knowing their needs, then we can decide, yes? But don't close the door to somebody because of the gender, yes? Because maybe she can be very interesting in your staff. For me, as assistant coach, we have 2 Saudi women assistant coaches in the staff who are amazing, and they are helping us a lot. And they are Saudi, so not a lot of experience in football, and they are women. But they are amazing. So don't close the doors. And for me, the most important is to listen and teamwork. Okay, listen what they want, and then build the best for your team, but working always as a teamwork, including men, women, or everybody who can be in your team to help you.
Amazing. Diana, any advice for the men in the audience, how they can help women?
Yeah, well, I would say there's an interesting exercise that was, or study that was done many years ago where they, in the tech industry, where they decided to remove the names from the CVs that were being received, and the photos, of course, so that the people receiving the CVs would only exclusively be focused on the content. So I think that this can sometimes be more difficult if it's not just a piece of paper, but an actual person. But just focusing on what can that person bring, regardless of their gender, their background, etc. And also realizing that you're going to learn something new, for sure. Like the more different the people are around you, and the more diverse, the more you're going to be learning, and the more diverse the outcome itself is going to be. So I think as well that there's something there about almost you yourself sometimes getting out of the comfort zone for taking risks and making decisions that are not what you would usually have done, but what you think can also help you grow in your team and whatever it is that you're doing.
Okay.
Well, I'll give an example of an exercise that or an event that was held at business school for me, and that was, so the business school I went to was IIMB, so it was one day at IIMB. So they got a couple of students to spend a day at the campus and live the life of the students, right? And the point I'm getting at is it boils down to empathy, right? So to all the men out there, although we as startups, as companies, we can probably organize events like that, but try to step into the shoes of your colleagues, of your female colleagues, and understand, listen to them, like Lluís said, and see where they're coming from, because more often than not, it's just a lack of understanding of the context that leads us to be dismissive about certain people or certain genders. So I think empathy, by listening more and trying to step into the shoes of your colleagues would probably help a lot.
Amazing. So listening is super important. Thank you all for listening to us. Thank you to my panel, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.